Okay, so today we'll start chapter 5, which is elasticity and its applications. So let's move further. So the introduction part of this chapter is that imagine yourself that you're a wheat farmer and it is your only profession, which means your only livelihood is through farming. Which kind of farming? Wheat farming. So you'll put your maximum effort for making your land productive because you know more wheat to sell means more income and more standard of life. So what happened? A new research came and it said that if you implant a hybrid seed that you can increase your 20% of production. So what is your opinion on that? Would you buy this kind of wheat? Why? Because you know that more wheat to sell, more income and more standard of living. What is the answer here? So how will you react this? Whether you will buy the seeds or does this discovery makes your lifestyle good or worse? All can be answered through understanding of elasticity. So elasticity means that it allows to analyze supply and demand with a greater precision. How? Because in our previous chapter we know that demand increase or decrease, right? What we did not quantify that demand. So if we quantify that demand or supply, that is called greater precision, that how much demand is like 20% increase or 30% increase, right? So official definition of elasticity sorry, official definition of elasticity is that elasticity is a measure of how much buyers and sellers respond to changes in market conditions, right? As I said in previous chapter, demand supply, we discussed qualitative perspective, the demand increase or decrease. But now we discuss quantitative aspects of elasticity. So the elasticity of demand is a measure of how much the quantity demanded of a good respond to a change in the price of the good. So in simple word, the price elasticity of demand is percentage change in quantity demanded due to percentage change in price. Right? For example, how much 1% change in price causes how much percentage change in demand, right? For example, 1% change causes 2% change in demand. This is called elasticity. Okay, so when we talk about elasticity, it's always in terms of percentage, right? So let's move further. So when there's a large change in quantity demanded due to small change in price, we call this demand is more elastic. So here I have pasted a very nice photo here. So you see the cola is right now 1, you buy more. When the cola is 3, forget about it. Which means if small change in price causes big change in quantity demanded, we call this elastic, right? And if big change in price causes small change in quantity demanded, we call this is inelastic or less elastic demand. You can see so the picture here is that, see, if big change in price but still you're buying the same amount, it means there's a less change in quantity demanded, right? It means demand is inelastic. So now question arises, think of yourself as a businessman, whether you want your business to be elastic or inelastic. If your answer is inelastic, then then you are in good shape. Why? Because if you want to increase the price, then your quantity demanded will be heard less, right? And if your business is elastic, it means a small change in price will hurt your business greatly. We'll discuss this concept further in our coming slides. So now we'll discuss the price elasticity of demand and its determinants. So how elasticity is determined: availability of close substitute, necessity versus luxuries, definition of the market and time horizon. These all four impact the price elasticity of demand. So we discuss one by one. Now availability of close substitute. So if the product has close substitute, then its demand is more elastic. How? Because now people have more choices to move from your product to other. So think in terms of butter and margarine. Both are substitute. Yes, if the price of the butter increase, people will shift to buy more margarine. Right? It means demand of butter is more elastic. Right? If the product has less substitute, then people don't have more choices to move from your product to other product. It means your product is less elastic. Right? So what is the managerial implication here? That you want your product with less substitute. So what about eggs? Do eggs have close substitute or not? Think about that. So less elastic, why? Because we don't have, I'm not talking about chicken eggs or duck eggs or other birds eggs, just eggs, right? So egg versus butter. So eggs demand is less elastic. Why? Because you cannot substitute eggs with butter, and you cannot substitute butter with eggs, right? Number second is necessities versus luxuries. So necessities is that when you, so in economics, necessity means when the demand cannot be reduced dramatically. We call this is necessity. So for example, visit to the doctor. So even if the doctor increases its fees, people will not change number of time visits to doctors, right? As compared to the increase in the price of car. So car is luxury and its demand is more elastic. Why? Because a change in a small increase or increase in the change of price causes large decrease or increase in the quantity demanded for cars, right? But for long distance traveler, car may not be luxury. Whether the price of car increase, people still buy the cars. Why? Because they have to travel long distance. So that's why I said here depends on person to person. So one thing that we just discuss here is that if product has close substitute, it means its demand is more elastic. Second one, if the product is this necessity, it's sorry, if the product has necessity, then it means its elasticity of demand is less elastic. If the product is luxury, its elasticity is more highly elastic. Okay. Now third one is definition of the market. It means are we seeing the market broadly or narrowly, right? For example, food. We're not talking about sandwiches, fruits, right? Burgers, meat. We're just talking about food. Food is a broader category. So when the market is broader, it means less substitutes are available. It means that its demand is inelastic. If the market is narrowed, for example, ice cream is narrow category than food, right? It means it has elastic demand because ice cream has substitute frozen yogurt. So as soon as we are just expanding the market or narrowing the market, it becomes more elastic. Broad category less elastic, more categories highly elastic. Plus, if we further dive down into the ice cream stuff, we have vanilla flavor, we have strawberry flavor, we have chocolate flavor, right? So it's even more elastic. The fourth one is time horizon. So when the price of the gasoline rises, demand for gasoline falls only slightly in few months. If the time period is small, people have less tendency to change, right? So in small or shorter time period, demand is inelastic. In when the time horizon is huge, for example, when the gasoline prices are high for 3 months, people do not stop consuming the gasoline because they don't have much choice and the time horizon is small. What about if the gas price of the gasolines are tend to high for next 2 years? Then people will start finding ways to reduce their expenses. They may be shifted to the public transportation. Okay, so here let's read that. When the price of gasoline rises, demand for the gasoline fall only slightly in few months, but as the time passed, people will tend to buy more fuel efficient cars or ultimately switch to the public transport. So demand for gasoline falls substantially. So goods tend to have more elastic demand over longer period of time, right? So more time period, people have more choices. So that's why high elastic, right? Less time period, which means inelastic.